Hi, everyone. Lisa here from Dog Days and Training for Life. I'm so happy to have you here. This is my very first live chat on Facebook, and I'm very excited to be here. A little bit nervous, but so glad that you can make it. And to anyone that's joining us on replay, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to stop by. So I'm not sure how many of you are here joining us on our very first chat. I'd love to see who's here. So I know some of you may already have worked with me previously or be clients at my facility, but there may be some of you that I've never met before. So if you wouldn't mind, if you'd all like to just introduce yourselves simply by posting in the chat section where you're from. If you don't know anything about me yet, I'm actually in Vancouver, sunny Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So again, welcome. So for those of you who do know me, you know that I'm never at a loss for words when it comes to talking about dogs, horses, or training. That's never a problem for me. But I have to say, and you might be able to tell, that doing something like this, a live chat, is a pretty big step for me outside my comfort zone. So it's got me thinking. I'm taking a really awesome course. It's actually the first course that I've ever taken that's not got anything to do with animals. It's very surprising. First time in over 20 years. And I'm learning a lot of stuff. I'm having lots of new experiences, and I'm realizing that the things that I'm experiencing right now there's an awful lot of similarities to the work that I've done with dogs and with their people. And I'm finding that really interesting, the similarities that I'm seeing. And so I thought it might be useful for me to share this with you. This is a little bit of a different topic than I would normally talk about. Usually I'm more nuts and bolts and getting into the specifics of dog training and how to help with specific issues such as behavioral issues or training new skills. But I thought for my very first chat, this might be a nice way to start. So So one of the things that I have noticed, that especially at the beginning of the last few months, that there have been quite a few people that, gotten a little bit stir crazy. There's been big changes to their routines. And, of course, that can have an impact on the way that we're feeling. Now, for me, being kept so busy in this course, I'm having so many new mental challenges. I'm learning lots of new stuff every single week. So it feels like the time is just absolutely flying by, and there's no chance for me to get bored. And I'm also so tuckered out. I can't believe how tired I am, in a good way. And that's with me having nearly, I hate to admit it, no physical exercise, or at least compared to what I would normally be doing working with the dogs. It's just, I've gone almost down to nothing because I'm always so focused, just getting this work done, going through all the tasks that I need to accomplish every week. But this points out so clearly to me something that I'm always talking to parents about, that a lot of times parents are under the mistaken idea that they have to be exercising the crap out of their dogs, that they need to be constantly keeping them busy just in the hopes that they'll have a better behaved dog, or that somehow they can manage them a little bit better, that is the key to having a well-behaved dog, is exercise, exercise, exercise. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't believe that fresh air and physical exercise, that it's not important. It's just as important for our dogs as it is for us. The issue that I have is that sometimes we just get the balance a little out of whack. And without getting into a bunch of detail about the specifics of what I think a good exercise plan would be, again, based on different dogs, different ages have different needs. I'm going to focus more on the mental stimulation because I feel that that's the part that's really missing in most dogs' life. That is very, very important that they have a solid dose on a daily basis of um, brain games or some type of mental stimulation. And there's so many different ways that we can provide that. So something else that I would put out to you that as a question, what is your dog's favorite type of mental stimulation? Now, I know some of you that have worked with me, you've probably, providing food puzzles or de-stuffers on a daily basis. That's the primary way that you're feeding your dogs. It's fantastic. So I'd love to know what's your dog's favorite food puzzle or de-stuffer. Is there a particular one that they really love? Or is their favorite thing to do rooting through an adventure box? Or maybe their most favorite activity in the world is going for a safari. So which way? There we go. If you have a second, please feel free to drop it into the chats. I've got my banners open right now, and I'm just realizing my first chat that I can't see both things. I'm a little nervous to toggle back and forth, but bear with me. I'll get the hang of this. So another thing that I've noticed too is in this class, because I'm learning so many new things really on a daily basis, that occasionally, I get a little bit stuck. I feel a bit overwhelmed, or just because it's something that I've never experienced before, I'm not quite sure how to get started. And I have to say, I'm pretty proud of myself because I actually followed my own advice for once. This is something I tell my clients, my dog parent clients, and something that I do myself, of course, when I'm working directly with the dogs. And that is, if you notice that you're getting stuck or your dog's getting stuck, that their performance or their willingness is starting to tank a little bit, that sometimes it really helps just to stop and step back for a moment or two and just think about what you're doing. Sometimes when we get working on something, we have an idea of how we should proceed through it. And often the task that we're asking our dogs to do is just a little bit too big for them. And I find that it's pretty common, I do the same thing, that we tend to be, as people, chunkers, that we tend to put things together into bigger pieces. And really, when you're working with a dog or any animal for that matter, or even for us, of course, as well, it sometimes really helps to just think about, can I make that simpler? Can I make it easier? Is there some way that I could split this task up, split it up into smaller pieces so that what I'm asking for or the goal is just a little bit easier to attain? It's amazing the impact that can have. Just that one simple little thing that we can do will sometimes just get our dogs right back on track and feeling confident, because the task that we're asking of them is just a little bit more manageable for them. So that's something that I always like to think about when I'm incorporating it into my training plans. Now, another thing that I've found when I've been getting a bit stuck is how important support is. In this class, I have the most amazing group of people. They're just wonderful. They're the other people that are taking the class. And as well, the instructor, oh my gosh, she's just absolutely incredible. And her her staff too are amazing. They seem to know just when you need them to step in and give you just a little bit of encouragement, a bit of guidance, maybe asking you a question. They've got this incredible knack to know just the question that you need to hear to put the pieces together, or just get you past that little hump that you need a little bit of push. And this reminds me, it's pretty obvious, of the situation of a lot of parents with their dogs, that sometimes when they're struggling with a particular issue or problem, that, I'll often, and I've been guilty of this too, we just think that we can do this on our own. And that's fine to give things a try. The thing is, when you start to get stuck or have problems, that often, just reaching out to someone and getting some help can really make a huge difference. Now, obviously you want to get the right kind of help. Going and reaching out to someone and then getting some really bad advice isn't going to be helpful in any way either. That can actually get you into more trouble. But I find if you can reach out and get someone that really knows what they're doing and maybe has experienced it before and has a good positive approach, especially if it's concerning working with animals, right? We don't want anyone that's going to suggest that you do something that's going to damage the relationship or create, bigger problems. But if you do that, you're able to, get rid of so much frustration and wasted time. And, even the thought that some people are just resigning themselves to the fact that, I just can't fix this problem. I'm just going to have to live with it because there's just nothing we can do about it. That it's just so sad to see that, because it's really not necessary for it to be that way. So a question that I have is, have any of you ever had an issue with your dog that you felt like you needed to reach out to someone to get some help? And if so, what was the issue? Maybe it was just getting a new puppy started, helping get some socializing ideas or tips, or perhaps it was a behavioral issue. If that's been the case, again, please feel free to drop a comment in the chat area. We'd love to be able to look through those in a few minutes. Now, on that same note, talking about getting support on a deeper level, and this is the one that really hits me, is thinking about our dogs themselves. That so often our dogs having to coexist with us in a slightly strange world, thinking about them having to deal with things often on their own, and that's through no fault of their people. Sometimes there's things that stress them out, or they don't have the skills really to cope properly with. And a lot of times what will happen is, because certain signs aren't recognized, that things can carry on for a while before we even recognize that the dogs are having a problem. Or often the behavior is labeled. That becomes an issue sometimes when we're working from outdated methodologies, or that we don't truly have a proper understanding of behavior. Often then what we'll do is we'll label it incorrectly, and that can be problematic. And so, I so often see working with a new client that these dogs obviously have been struggling with things for quite a while, and nothing's been done to help them yet. And, I'm not talking about recognizing signs of stress or behavior, like the big ticket stuff, like growling or lunging or snapping, all of those things. Those are pretty easy to see. But what I'm talking about are the more subtle signs, the signs that take a little more of a trained eye to recognize. And we can do that. There's no reason why dog parents can't become completely proficient, pardon me, in recognizing the more subtle signs of body language. It's just a matter of training, that's all. And so when we recognize these more subtle signs, they come up earlier in the conversation or in the timeline of behavior than the bigger ticket stuff. And so when we learn to recognize those, what that does for us and for our dogs is be able to step into that process a lot earlier. It allows us to recognize our dogs are having an issue and manage the environment so that we can help them deal with things if they don't have the coping skills yet. It will help us step in and start to teach them the skills that they need to be able to learn to cope with these things, just so that they can be happier, more confident dogs. It's pretty profound when that starts to become the way that we interact, the way we work with, the way that we train our dogs, that we're recognizing those more subtle signs of body language and can get in there earlier and help them. I just really feel that our dogs are looking to us for support, maybe more than we realize, and that they would really love us to be their advocates, to be able to step in and help them, maybe more than might have been the case. Now, on a slightly more personal note, I'm going to tell you a little secret about me, which is when I get on task with something, talking about getting focused, I will sometimes, get on to something and be at it for 10, 12, or even 14 hours without a break. Like I don't even get up, let alone eat or even have a drink of water. And I know that's a really bad idea, really bad. That's a case where I'm not following my own advice. And I know when I do that, that the quality of my work probably isn't quite so good as I go along. And my clarity probably isn't as good, although I may think it is at the time. And one thing for sure, I definitely don't feel as good as I could when I'm doing that to myself. So I know that dogs are often in the same situation for whatever reason, lots of different reasons. They have bad days. It could be maybe they just had a huge yelling match out the window at the next door dog. Or, maybe they've got a sore leg because they were weekend warriors. So lots of reasons, but the impact is that they can be a bit out of sorts sometimes. Maybe they may be slow to respond, which isn't, or slower than normal. They may be distracted, or maybe they might even be a little bit on the grumpy side. So the point is, just like us, they're not always operating at 100%. And, we now know, thanks to studies that have been done, that our dogs are so much more complex, both emotionally and cognitively, than even when I started like 15, 20 years ago. We didn't have any idea. Of course, anecdotally, we might feel that way about our own dogs, but now we realize it goes way beyond what we originally thought. And so they're not these one-dimensional creatures that are, only acting on instinct. There's so much more going on. And, recognizing that, again, will really help the way that we share our lives with them and the way that we train when we're actually wanting to teach them or to work with them. All right, so now I guess my last point, and this is a doozy for me, being a positive reinforcement trainer, is talking about the goal. In this course that I'm taking right now, I've got a big goal that I'm seeing at the end of it, way down the road, because the course is a few months long. And the goal is important. That's why I'm taking the course and putting in all this time and effort. But I'm realizing along the way that every single week I'm learning new skills and stepping outside of my comfort zone. And that, it is building up my confidence and giving me things that are not going to allow me to do stuff that I would never have thought, even try before, let alone think that, I could actually do it. So the path that I'm taking to get to that end goal, I'm feeling like that's as valuable as the goal itself. And this is such a big part of the way that I work with my dogs, and I advise people to work with their dogs. Sometimes we just get so focused on that end goal that we have that we kind of lose sight of some other really important stuff. Now, listen, I do understand that if you've got a dog that's chomping up on everybody, of course, the first thing that's going to come to your mind is, how do I make it stop? And of course, we want to be thinking about that. That's going to factor into the training plan. But the problem is when we focus just on that goal, and especially if all we're thinking about is how do I stop the behavior, that's where we can run into problems. Because when we do that, one thing that can often happen is we kind of lose sight of the relationship a little bit. We're not really paying attention to the experiences our dog is having while we're working through this problem together. And sometimes things happen to the relationship that may cause, well, just some not great things to be happening. I'm always trying to put points into my relationship bank with every animal that I spend time with. And, if we're not careful, when we just get focused on that end game, then sometimes we can lose sight of the relationship and start taking points out of the relationship bank account. And as much as we can, we really want to avoid doing that. Now, another thing that happens when we focus just on that end game and finish stopping that behavior that we don't like from happening is we can not bother really looking into, well, why? Why are they doing this? There has to be a reason for the behavior. That's just basic learning theory, that there has to be an antecedent or some kind of cause for the behavior. And a lot of times, just by doing a little bit of poking around or thinking and figuring some of those possible causes out, just dealing with those can be the solution. That's all that you need to do. Now, another one that I find very important, another reason why I don't like to just focus on stopping behavior, and this is part of the whole how are you going to train? How are you going to fix the behavior? And where a lot of people get into trouble because they get advice or hook up with people that don't have a good understanding of learning theory and the reasons why we don't want to be doing things that are potentially going to stress out our dogs. When we focus only on stopping the behavior, then a lot of times what ends up happening, because of the way that we are dealing with the problem, we end up creating bigger problems than the original one that we had. So think about all those things together. What I'm trying to say, I guess the easy way to put it, a more succinct way to put it would be that the how you are getting to your goal is just as important as what that goal is. And from my 22 years of experience of working with dogs, I actually would say, for me personally, I find that the how is maybe even more important. Now, depending on the situation, there may be some circumstances or behaviors that you're working on that, yes, the end goal and getting that problem sorted out absolutely is a priority. But even in those cases, I still believe that how you deal with the problem is just as important. Alrighty, so I would love to know that if you've ever had an experience, or maybe one of those light bulb moments where all of a sudden you're thinking differently about your dog, or thinking differently about your life together. Have you ever had one of those that you just suddenly felt like, wow, I'd never thought of that before? Would love to hear about that. That's definitely something that you can put into the into the chat section, or if there's something that is going to take you a little bit longer, or you're not ready to do it yet, or you're catching us on replay, then I'm going to post the link of this up on my group page, and you're welcome to leave comments there too. I would love for you to give me some feedback. This has been a really big step for me. So for me to go live in front of you guys, you're just there having to type from the comfort of your own home. So please do so. It would be so helpful for me, and would mean a lot to share that or any other comments or questions that you have. I'm going to be doing live chats every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m., same time, same place. As I mentioned earlier, the chats won't be, well, they're going to be a little bit more specific, a little bit more on task about certain things, whether that's behavior or learning to be better at identifying body language. Just, my gosh, I could talk every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the next 15 years and not run out of topics. But if there's something that you would like me to cover over the next few weeks, again, please leave that in the comments, because I'm more than happy to incorporate that into the chat. I know there's a lot of people that are, you may feel like you're the only person that's having to deal with this particular situation, but I can assure you that a lot of people are going through exactly the same thing as you right now. So please never be embarrassed about reaching out, asking a question, or asking for some help on a particular topic, because I've probably honestly already done that for somebody else lots and lots of times already. I'm more than happy to do it. So I'm going to close off my banner and just see if we've got any comments. Oh, and also I'm going to, in the chat section, leave you with a link. This is a link to my new group, Positive Dog Life. And in that group, we've got a really lovely group of people that have joined because they want to get positive solutions for situations that they're dealing with, just so that they can have happy, confident dogs and live a harmonious and joyful life together. So the group is just growing. We would love to have you there. The more people that come in, the more supportive it gets, because people start helping one another out in addition to me being there for you. So we'd love to see you. And that's it. Hope I get to see you on Wednesday. I know it's bright and early for some of you, but I just thought it'd be a great way to start the day. So have a lovely day. Have a great day with your dogs. Take care. All my best, guys.